Do you know? Do, re, mi. Stay tuned for County Conversations.
Welcome to County Conversations. I'm your host, Deborah Taylor, and today we are out on location at Muhlenberg Middle School, and we're here to talk to music teacher Becky Cooper about music literacy. Hey, Rebecca.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us out here today.
Well, thank you for coming.
So you are the music teacher here, and you're teaching music literacy?
Yes, I teach chorus and string orchestra, but through my classes I teach music literacy.
Gotcha. Now tell me, how is that different from the normal music class that we all grew up taking?
Music literacy is different because we don't actually learn to read music often. What we are really doing is decoding music. We're looking at a symbol, and if you're an instrumentalist, that might mean figuring out a letter name like A, B, C, D,
Right.
or putting a fingering down. For choir, it's very hard because there is no fingering, there's no instrument, and how do you learn to read accurately those music notes that are in your music and know where you're going? Matching that pitch, knowing where to go. It's very difficult.
I know when I was growing up in music class, you would look at the notes, but more to just see, okay, I go up and down here, not so much, I guess, what the note is, and that's what you're doing?
Correct. So I used to teach that way, and the kids were watching. They knew the notes would go up and down, and I was trying my best to teach them, but I just wasn't getting it, and they weren't either. But they would try to go up and down, and they would follow the notes, and we would do sight singing in school, and we would do these simple examples, and then we would try our best to make it through that, and then I'd pull out the music, which was much harder, and which they were really learning by ear.
So sight singing, tell me what that means.
Sight singing is to look at a piece of music, usually an example. It's not usually considered a piece of repertoire that you would perform. It would be more like a musical example, maybe 4 to 8 measures long, and it would have rhythms that you would expect the students to know from having gone over them in class. And then you would teach them the do, re, and the mi that would align with those notes. But they still were not able to complete that very accurately.
So they're more memorizing the pitches when you taught them each song.
Yes, and what I noticed when I taught that way was that they could look at something and they would see, oh, it goes up, it goes do, re, mi, but their voice was not able to sing it. It would be something like do, re, mi, fa, like they were guessing.
If they weren't hearing it first.
Yeah,
they were just
because
if
they weren't hearing it. So then I would try to sing it for them or play it for them on the piano, which is how choir has been taught traditionally in America for a long time now.
Yeah. So how has that made a difference for your students already? You've been doing this for how long now?
I've been doing this for 3 years.
Good.
And it's made an incredible difference. I have a sight singing book I use, and I remember I used to get to lesson 4 in unit 1, and we would fall apart. We just could not I'm talking with my 6th, 7th, or 8th graders. We hit a barrier and we couldn't go further. And I didn't know what the problem was.
Right.
And now I have 6th graders, and here we are halfway through the school year, just starting the 2nd semester, and they're on that lesson that my 8th graders could not pass in the middle of the year. And they're doing it. They're learning it, and they're going, and they're actually reading it. They understand it. And they're applying it to music.
This is really important, right, for our students. I mean, kind of stress for our audience why it's so important that kids try to learn this way than just the traditional way.
Well, it is so important, and it is harder. And I think some kids actually were turned off when I first turned to this way of teaching because they were so used to going to music class and the teacher would play or sing a song and they would hear it over and over again. And that was how they learned the song. They would learn it through memory. And I didn't want them to learn that way. So I had to pick easier music because if I pick hard music, they can't read it. They're going to learn it through memorization. They can't follow, and they can follow along the English words, and that's it. They don't really, like you, they went up and down. They're trying to find their part. When I first started teaching this way, I realized my kids had no idea where to look in that music. And if you think about it, if somebody gave you a piece of paper that had a few English words on it and a bunch of Chinese,
Right.
you would look for the English words and you would hold on to those words and you'd be like, I recognize this.
Right.
I can do this. And that's how it is with music. They're not able to look at that many of the times and figure it out. And so this class makes them independent. And that's so important to be able to, as a singer, get something and carry it on to your next song. It's not about me reteaching, or putting a song for them to memorize, redemonstrating the same line of music 20 times in a row and still saying that note is off. And they might even know it's off, but they don't know how to fix it because I haven't taught them how to fix it. They don't know the relationship of where that note should be versus where they're singing it.
And now you're really giving them those tools. So
Yes.
when they leave your class, they can actually go and do for themselves if they want to.
Correct.
Have you seen any students that have really taken off with it, that who've already had it in the last couple of years you've been teaching it?
I had a student previously that was singing quite off pitch, and when I introduced this way, it really made a difference for him. He was much better at singing on pitch. It was really amazing. But I think my favorite thing to see is at the beginning of the year now when I get my 6th graders who are brand new and they really are musically illiterate.
Right.
They recognize symbols. They can say that's a quarter note or that's ta, but they don't know how to put that into music.
Right.
And the way that I teach them is how to go through that process and to get a piece of music and on their own be able to figure it out. So we now as teachers have evaluations to show that we are teaching.
Yeah.
My evaluation used to be a written down test. Do you know what this symbol means? That's a quarter note. It gets 1 count.
Yeah.
This is a whole note. It gets 4 counts. That's good information.
Yeah.
It's not higher level thinking. Now, my post and test and pre-test, I give them a melody. I never sing that for them, but I make sure it's on their level.
Right.
It's a level that is equivalent to what we have taught or gone over in class.
Right.
And they have to perform it in 3 ways. And the first way, it sounds kind of funny, the first way is called takadimi.
Okay.
And that is our rhythm system, which is like ta, ta, ta-dee, tu.
Okay, but it's hitting the notes.
It's just counting, really,
Okay.
counting.
Gotcha.
The second way is solfege. That's when they have to sing. And of course, then they're learning, because when they sing the solfege, they should be also singing it in the counting. So
Right.
they have do, re, mi, and I don't sing it for them, so they have to find do.
Yeah.
They need to know the relationships of the notes visually and orally on their own.
Yeah.
And then the third step, which surprised me, but it was actually the hardest step, was putting all of that rhythm system and the solfege system underneath and putting the lyrics in.
Really?
You would not believe you could have a kid sing perfectly, do, re, mi, and then you add words and they'd be like, the storm went out. Like they would be on a totally different tune. And you think, why is that happening? But when you look at it, look at all the higher level thinking that's going on. They're thinking rhythm. They're thinking pitch, but now they're no longer able to say what they're thinking. They have another layer of reading, which we know reading can be tricky, just reading.
Right.
And they're doing all these things, and they really have a hard time, which is why I now use hand signs. And that's really important for the kids. It gives the singers, this is do, and they do this symbol, and it gives them, like, they can think it, they see it. It gives them, I think, a fair way to an instrumentalist who, if I go to the piano and I'm going to play something, I feel it. Well, how do I feel what I sing?
Right.
I don't know what's going on in here.
It associates in better form.
I can't control that really unless I mentally think of it, and then I can control it. So I'm really giving them tools where they can look at a piece of music without me, without anybody else, without a piano. I tell my piano players, I said, don't you dare go home and play that on an instrument. I said, or you're just cheating yourself.
I mean, you're teaching them at a granular level, so that way they really sticks with them and really get it.
Yeah. And it's really exciting. I'm very excited about it. I wish I had been taught this way, but what's so fun for me is seeing how I taught for so many years, 16 years.
Right.
I was a good teacher.
Right, definitely.
But now I can really give them independence, and they are able to look at things on their own and read.
Yeah.
And my singers could not do that before.
That's amazing. Well, I think we're going to take a quick break. But after the break, we're going to find out how Rebecca got started down this road. You're watching County Conversations.
So good to see you guys. So, what's up?
Oh, we finally bought a place.
Holy cow.
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
Jeez, at the end of the month, we have nothing left to save.
Yeah, I have no idea where it goes.
Well, you're spending a lot on...
Was it good?
Oh, God.
Oh, how is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Welcome back to County Conversations. We're speaking with Rebecca Cooper about music literacy. So Rebecca, tell me, how did this get started? How did you kind of get into this big change? Because you've had to pretty much change your whole way of teaching.
Yes, I was very fortunate, and I want to give a lot of credit and thank you to Dr. Carol Kruger. She is at Emporia State University, but she was doing classes at Shenandoah University over the summer.
Nice.
I had heard about her class, and anyone I knew that had taken it raved about it, but I'm a mother. I have 3 boys, and my youngest is 3 years old, and I needed to get to a spot where I felt I could do it.
It's not a free class, obviously.
Yeah, no, not.
Okay.
Not a free class, but not that expensive. I want to say the class itself is like $120, and it's a 3-day class.
That's great.
And it really was eye-opening. So I took this class, and it's called Developing the Independent Musician, and it was so much information. I really could not absorb all of the information she was giving us.
Right.
There was a new counting system I'd never heard of called Takadimi.
Okay.
There was solfege, which I'd heard of, and I was using in class, but the way she was using it,
Like applying it different.
I had never been around that. That was totally new to me, and a crux of what I needed to be doing.
So you left there probably with your head just buzzing with ideas and trying to retain everything.
I couldn't even make it through the first couple days without feeling just overwhelmed a little bit, but in a good way, a good way. And she's so funny. Dr. Carol Kruger has a great sense of humor. She's very warm. She makes the class fun, and she realizes that she is giving music instructors that have taught for a long time, that have learned things one way, a totally new path, and that they need time to absorb it. It's not going to happen overnight.
Well, breaking old habits is one of the hardest things in the world to do, right?
Exactly. And she owned that. She said, I was there. I had to break habits too. And it made it more comfortable, you know, to say, I can do this. She did it, and look where she is.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was really great.
So you took the one class, but you've taken a couple since, you know, you keep going back.
I retook the same class now for 3 years in a row.
That's good.
However, every year I gained more. And when I first came back after the first year, I only implemented what I was comfortable with. That was all I could do.
A few nuggets that you were able to kind of take away.
But I saw growth immediately.
So you knew that was something you wanted to stick with. Yeah.
One of the things she taught that I thought was really interesting was that she said, well, when you go to teach your chorus class and you want to make sure they're reading music, she said, you white out all the words. You know, go ahead just for learning purposes and make a photocopy of the music and white out those words. And what will those kids look at? What else can they look at but the music?
Yeah.
And I remember going to the photocopying machine, and this is tedious, making a photocopy, whiting out all the words. And I was frustrated. One time I put the paper down and it was too quick, and the whiteout got on the machine. I thought, oh my goodness. And I finally thought, I can be stubborn. I will just not sing those words. I will not allow myself to do it. I'm pushing the piano over to the side of the room. I will not play it. And
How'd
it
that
was
work?
it was hard, but I will tell you, it was an interesting thing to witness. And my 8th graders did not like it that year. They had known me 2 years. I was doing something totally new, and they didn't.
What are you doing?
And it was harder.
Yeah.
It required more thought, and they were just like, just play it for us, or just sing the words. They would say to me so many times, when are we going to sing the music? I said, you are singing the music.
Yeah.
You're just not singing it in English. And they were very frustrated, but they learned. My 7th grade, I loved because they had me for 1 year. And they had learned this way I had taught. But then they were open to me, and I said, I want to try something new. I took this class, and they were in it. They were a little slow at first, but then they did embrace it. Once they saw that they were learning, once they saw their growth, they bought into it. My 6th graders didn't know any better, so that was fun for me. And they just accepted it.
Right.
And those 6th graders are now 8th graders.
Do you see these kids that are now taking it this way as they get older? I'm sure you're able to follow some. Do they stick with music more than maybe they would have?
You know, that's a great question. I think a lot of kids are sticking with music. What's exciting is the high school teacher took the class with me this past summer. And so at Central High School now, she is doing a lot of the same concepts. And so there's that growth and building
when you
of
hand
going.
your students over
But
to her.
remember that my 9th graders that are there now, they only had 2 years of this. So like it's an ongoing process. I'm really excited to see where the next couple years will be because they will have they've been taught that way from 6th grade up. And they'll go far.
What's exciting to me is what you touched on in the beginning or first half is that even kids that we would have maybe written off as tone deaf, oh, they just can't sing, they can't hear the notes, this could really help them.
It really makes a difference. They need that part of the brain that's analyzing the distance, that is logistically thinking through how does this make sense? And it reasons for them and it says, oh, it makes sense because this is my space. This is the relationship between Do and me. And they don't know it until they are told and given that information.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, I know recently you got a grant actually to help you with this. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was very happy to receive that grant. It was the iChip grant for innovative teaching. And I'd actually taken the course 2 times when I had taken that grant. The grant was to help me to take it for graduate credit so I could delve deeper and take it in more understanding. I had to write some papers, and it was really eye-opening for me, just comparing music literacy with literacy in general, and the stages of how do we learn language, well, how do we learn music, and how they integrate. Oh my goodness, we should be teaching little kids solfege when they're 3. They should be singing do, re, mi. They should be doing hand signs. They do sign language. You know,
so
babies, they can do this.
And music helps in every area of your life. I mean,
it does.
It
the
really
studies, and again, I have more to learn, but what I researched this summer, just learning about how your brain works. Your brain grows differently when you're exposed to music, and there is a window from age 1 till 10. They say 10 is about the cutoff for your music development or how far you'll actually, you know, you can expand on it, but it's kind of like that window, as everything has a window. Age 10, that means I'm really getting them at their end, at their peak. What if they were doing this earlier?
Like you said, in just kindergarten, if they were learning that when they were learning their ABCs, what the difference that would make. Well, it's amazing. I'm so glad that you were able to do this because the better you know, the better you're able to relay it to the students.
Yes, and it's changed me as a musician. I am a much more solid musician. And I thought I was pretty solid before, but you know, we all can continue to learn.
For other music teachers out there or parents, what can you do to stress to them how important this way of learning music really is and just to try to embrace it more? Well,
it's just like learning to read. Would we give our children sight words and then not give them books? Would we just have them memorize things and not learn to read? The beauty of it, again, when you're literate, you can silently read something and enjoy it. We can have silent reading time and have a book, and that unwraps in our mind, and we see that story in our mind. Why not do that with music? Why not have see music on the page and hear it in our mind?
I love that concept.
It would be wonderful. And I'm getting better at it now, just now.
But you've studied for how long, and you're still having to work so hard on it.
And it's getting easier, but I'm still working. And But it's made it so much more exciting for me too. That challenge, that, learning something new and seeing my kids' growth has really invigorated me. Seeing them become independent, it's like a parent.
Yeah.
You don't want to raise your child to have to come home and live with you and be dependent on you the rest of life. You want them to live their life. Yeah. You want them to do their thing. And we want that in music. We want them to go out and sing, not have to come to Miss Cooper and say, hey, I want to learn a song. Can you play it?
Yeah. Well, I love seeing how passionate and excited you are about it. I love music myself, so I'm just excited that we have someone here in our county that's really taken that extra step and going further for our kids. Now, if anybody in the area, say parents or other teachers, have questions or just wanted to talk to you about it, what should those people do?
Oh, I would really encourage them to email me here at school, to call me. I'm very open to talk about it. It's very important.
Good.
I think that we could change young kids, their lives, and their passion for music by giving them these tools.
I agree, definitely. Well, thank you so much for all you're doing in our community and with our kids. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching County Conversations. I'm Deborah Taylor, and I'll see you next time.
Now here's going to be the cool thing. I'm going to go that far from the beginning, and I would like you to somehow do this motion and magically turn your page like this. Somehow.
All we have to do is
do it with one hand and turn your page or something. Ah! Don't do that.